The sun bleeds across the horizon of northern Burkina Faso, a crimson wound in the sky. The wind carries more than dust tonight. It carries the ghosts of the fallen. Burnt fields stretch endlessly, and the air smells of smoke, sweat, and sorrow. In the middle of an abandoned checkpoint stands one man, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. His uniform is torn, his face streaked with dirt, and his eyes. They hold the weight of 1,000 unspoken stories. This isn't the face of a soldier drunk on victory. It's the face of a man who has seen too much, and must still choose mercy when the world demands blood. Across the barren road, through the shimmering heat and rising ash, another man waits. Commander Amadou, a name that once made entire villages whisper in fear. A name that had become synonymous with pain. For years, his rebels had terrorized the north, torching villages, stealing children from their mothers, slaughtering the innocent in the name of chaos. But today, there are no gunshots, no screams, no ambush waiting in the trees. Only silence. A silence so heavy it feels alive. 50 meters apart, 2 men, 2 paths, 1 destiny. No soldiers flanking them. No cameras, no orders. Just the beating of their hearts and the eyes of history watching. Traoré tightens his jaw. The world would understand if he raised his weapon. The world would cheer if he took revenge. After all, Amadou's men had taken his comrades, burned his people, left entire provinces in mourning. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the armor and command, Ibrahim feels something unexpected. Pity. This isn't the mighty Amadou of the battlefield. This is a broken man, weapon at his feet, hands open, eyes hollow. A man stripped bare by the consequences of his own violence. And in that moment, time stands still. The captain's mind flashes back, not to victory, but to loss. To the night his unit found the remains of an entire village. To the little boy clutching a wooden toy in the ashes. To the mother who screamed her child's name until her voice broke. Traoré had promised himself that justice would come, but he never knew that justice would look like this. The camera moves closer. The sound fades, replaced by a single heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. This is the moment that will define his soul. Revenge would be easy. Forgiveness would be impossible. And yet, leadership is forged in impossible moments. As the sun dips lower, painting the world in dying light, Ibrahim steps forward. Each footstep echoes through the emptiness. 10 meters, 5, 3. Now only a breath separates them. Amadou doesn't speak. He doesn't beg. His lips tremble, but his eyes are strangely calm, as if he, too, knows this is the end of something far greater than himself. Then, from the far distance, a soldier shouts Ibrahim's name, breaking the spell. Captain! Orders? But Traoré doesn't answer. His gaze never leaves Amadou's. The camera pans slowly around them, dust swirling like spirits in the twilight. This isn't just a military encounter. It's a meeting between 2 reflections of the same broken nation. Finally, Ibrahim speaks, voice low, steady, almost mournful. You destroyed villages. But what destroyed you, Commander? Amadou's eyes flicker. No answer. Only silence. You taught children to kill. Because no one taught you how to live. The rebel leader's shoulders shake. For a moment, he almost looks human again. This is not mercy, Ibrahim says quietly. This is the end of your war. He turns to his men, motioning for them to lower their weapons. Gasps ripple through the ranks. Some stare in disbelief. Others look angry, even betrayed. Sir, this man, he deserves death. One soldier protests. Ibrahim looks at him, calm but firm. If we become what we fight, then we have already lost. The words hang in the air like a prophecy. For a moment, even the wind seems to stop. This was not the vengeance his men expected. It was something harder, something nobler. A single act of restraint in a world drowning in rage. But mercy comes with a cost. And deep down, Ibrahim knows this decision will not make him a hero. It will make him a target. Still, he stands tall, eyes fixed on the horizon where the last light of day fades into shadow. Because some wars are not fought on battlefields. They are fought within the human heart. That night, under a torn canvas tent, Ibrahim writes a single line in his journal. To rebuild a nation, we must first heal its soul. He doesn't know it yet. But this choice, this refusal to spill one more drop of blood, will ignite a storm that will test every ounce of his strength and faith. There will be consequences, whispers among his ranks, doubt from his allies, and fury from those who feed on chaos. But history will remember this moment, not as the end of a war, but as the beginning of redemption. Because when a leader chooses mercy over revenge, he doesn't just save his enemy, he saves his humanity. And as the wind howls through the empty checkpoint, the nation of Burkina Faso takes its first breath of peace in years. But peace is fragile, and not everyone is ready to accept it. Dust swirled around the ruins like restless spirits. The air was so thick with silence it could almost choke you. Captain Ibrahim Traoré stood still, staring at the man who had once been the terror of the north. Commander Amadou, stripped of his power, stripped of his army, stripped of the fire that once burned in his eyes. His clothes were torn, caked with blood and dust. He looked less like a warlord and more like a shadow of what he used to be. And yet, even in defeat, there was something unsettling about him, as though the land itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. Around them, Traoré's soldiers closed in, eyes wild, weapons raised. Grief and rage burned in their hearts. These men had buried their brothers, their wives, their children because of him. And now, justice was within reach. But Ibrahim lifted a single hand, a silent command. The soldiers froze. The only sound was the faint crackle of a nearby fire, and the metallic click of rifles being reluctantly lowered. Then came a voice, broken, rough, almost human. "You know who I am," Amadou said quietly. Ibrahim nodded once. "I know exactly who you are." A pause. A silence thick enough to shatter the soul. "Then you know what I've done." Another nod. The captain's jaw tightened. His pulse thundered in his ears. He could feel the fury of his men behind him, could almost taste it in the air. Amadou looked past him, eyes flicking toward the circle of soldiers. "They want to kill me," he whispered. "And they're right. If I were them, I'd want the same." The words carried no fear, no defense, just exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that only comes from years of running from your own sins. "Why didn't you run?" Ibrahim asked, his voice low, deliberate. For the first time, something flickered in the rebel's face. Pain, regret, a ghost of the man he might once have been. "Because I'm tired," Amadou murmured. "Tired of running. Tired of killing. Tired of what I've become." The words hung in the air like smoke. Ibrahim felt something twist inside him. Not sympathy, not forgiveness, but understanding. The understanding that monsters are not born. They are made, shaped by war, by poverty, by betrayal, by the endless hunger for power. For a moment, Ibrahim saw not a rebel, but a man, someone's son, someone's brother, lost in the storm. But then his mind was flooded with memories. The burned school where children's shoes still lay scattered. The mass graves near Djibo, hands still clutching prayer beads. The little girl who couldn't speak anymore because her voice had been buried with her family. Every memory screamed one name. "Amadou." Ibrahim's expression hardened. "You expect mercy?" he asked, his voice sharp as steel. Amadou slowly shook his head. "No, I expect justice. And I know what justice looks like for men like me." Behind them, a voice broke through the tense silence. Sergeant Ouedraogo stepped forward, his hands trembling, eyes wet with grief and fury. Everyone knew his story. 3 months ago, Amadou's men had slaughtered his entire family. "Captain," the sergeant's voice cracked, "give the word. Let us end this now." He raised his rifle. Others joined in. Murmurs grew into angry shouts. "He deserves to die. For the children. For our families." The rage was a storm, unstoppable, righteous, and raw. Ibrahim could feel it pressing against him from all sides, demanding blood. He closed his eyes for a second, and in that silence, he heard his heart whisper, "If I give them what they want, the killing never ends." When he opened his eyes, the world seemed quieter. The chaos faded. There was only the choice, justice or peace, revenge or redemption. He turned to his men, his brothers. They looked at him not as a commander now, but as the one man who could give them closure. Amadou lowered his head, whispering something almost too faint to hear. "Maybe this is how it ends." Ibrahim's hand moved slowly toward his holster. The soldiers tensed, breath held, fingers tight on triggers. This was it. But Ibrahim's hand didn't pull the gun. It dropped to his side. He looked into Amadou's eyes and saw not a monster, but a mirror. "If I kill you now," Ibrahim said quietly, "I become you." The words struck like thunder. The soldiers erupted, voices rising in disbelief. "Captain, he'll kill again. This man deserves no mercy. He murdered our families." Ibrahim's voice cut through the noise. Deep, commanding, unshakable. "Listen to me." The shouting stopped. "We've buried enough fathers, enough sons, enough dreams. If we let hate rule us now, then we have learned nothing." He turned to Ouedraogo, the man whose pain burned brightest. "Sergeant, if you kill him, will your family rise again?" The soldier's lips quivered. He lowered his rifle slowly, eyes filling with tears. "No." "Captain, then let this end here." Ibrahim turned back to Amadou. "You'll stand trial, not for mercy, but for truth." The rebel commander stared at him, stunned. "You would spare me, after everything?" "No," Ibrahim said softly. "I'm not sparing you. I'm saving us." The soldiers looked at one another, uncertain, conflicted. But something in their captain's words rooted them in place. The sun dipped lower, painting everything in a golden red glow, the color of both blood and redemption. Ibrahim motioned for his men to restrain the rebel. They hesitated, but obeyed. Chains clinked, dust rose. And in that moment, the impossible had happened. A man who had earned death was being given the chance to face his humanity. As Amadou was led away, he turned once more to Ibrahim. "You think this will change anything?" he asked bitterly. "It already has," Ibrahim replied. The commander was taken into custody. The soldiers dispersed, and for the first time in months, the sound of gunfire did not echo across the northern plains. That night, Ibrahim sat alone beneath the torn fabric of his command tent. Outside, the wind howled through the empty fields. Inside, a single lantern flickered, its flame trembling just like his soul. He wrote in his journal once more, "Today I saw that even monsters we fear were once men who lost their way. But if we don't choose differently, we will become them." He closed the notebook, exhaled deeply, and whispered a prayer for the dead, both the innocent and the guilty. But as he drifted into uneasy sleep, one thought refused to leave him. If mercy was the seed of peace, what storms would it bring before it bloomed? "My sister was 7, he said, each word a broken stone. 7. She was carrying water when they came." His lips trembled. His throat worked against a cry he would not let out. "They burned the house. They left her there." He swallowed. The compound seemed to shrink around his grief. Around him, 100 voices rose with the same litany. Cousins burned alive in churches. Parents shot in front of children. Whole neighborhoods erased as if they'd never existed. Each story landed like a blow. Each memory demanded one thing: retribution. Ibrahim watched them, the men who'd bled beside him. He saw how grief had hollowed their faces into the shape of rage. These were not soldiers hungry for glory. They were the walking wounded of a country dying on its feet. They had come to him for one thing: to be made whole again by whatever form of justice he could deliver. "I hear you," he said, and the words carried across the dust and ruin. They were small words, but they held weight. Every death, every dream burned. "I feel it too," he turned to Amadou. The rebel stood with his eyes closed, a defeated statue of a man who had believed himself untouchable until that morning. No swagger, no threats, just the ragged surrender of someone who had finally run out of reasons. "Your right to demand justice," Ibrahim continued, addressing his men more than the captured commander. "This man has brought darkness to our land. He has killed without conscience. Your anger is not wrong." A subtle shift moved across the compound. Uncertainty, curiosity, the fragile stirring of doubt. Ibrahim paused and chose each next word like a soldier chooses a step through a minefield. "But if we execute him here," he said slowly, "what are we saying about ourselves? What are we becoming? Will our names mean anything different from the names we bury?" From the back, a voice barked, "He's a murderer!" It was not a question. It was a verdict. Ibrahim met it without flinching. "Yes," he agreed. "He is, and he should face justice. Real justice. Not the quick, hot satisfaction of revenge. Real justice that shows the world who we are. Sergeant Uedraogo stepped forward, his face contorted in a mask of grief and fury. "My humanity," he rasped, "died with my family. Captain, all I have left is this anger. Don't take it from me." His words struck Ibrahim like a fist. He felt the rawness of it in the marrow of his bones. The struggle was not just about Amadou's life. It was about protecting the souls of men who had seen too much cruelty. If he chose blood now, he would harden them into the very thing they swore to destroy. A darker voice whispered inside Ibrahim's head, a voice that sounded suspiciously like survival. "Who are you to preach mercy? You have killed in combat. You have ordered strikes. What makes you righteous? Maybe mercy is weakness dressed up as virtue." His fingers tightened on his sidearm. The world would applaud a simple end. The international community might even praise the strike. But a memory rose, sudden and sharp. His father's voice years ago when Burkina Faso still smelled of hope. "When you hold a weapon," his father had said, "anyone can be strong. But strength is not the same as justice. It takes courage to be just when the world begs you to be cruel." In youth, those words had sounded naive. Now they were a lifeline. Amadou opened his eyes and met Ibrahim's gaze. They were not pleading. They were empty, resigned, perhaps even relieved that the story was nearing its end. "I don't ask for mercy," Amadou said. "I don't deserve it. Decide quickly. This waiting is a kind of torture." Ibrahim studied him. There was no play acting, no manipulation, just the tired truth of a man who'd cornered himself with his own choices. Around them, the wind picked up a dance of dust and old ash. A distant dog barked. Life continued indifferently, as if the fate of men were a small footnote. Then, with a calm that shocked everyone, Ibrahim lowered his hand from his weapon. He inhaled, slow and measured, and spoke with a clarity that cut through the murmurs. "Commander Amadou," he said, "you will face justice, but not here. Not by our guns. You will be taken into custody. You will be tried. You will answer for every crime, every life taken. And the people of Burkina Faso will see that even in war we honor the law." Silence pressed in like a winter shawl. For a breath, the only sound was a child's distant cry, a reminder of all that had been lost. Then, as if a dam broke, chaos erupted. "No." Sergeant Uedraogo lunged forward, but two comrades held him back. "This is madness. He'll buy his way out. He'll escape." The protests rose, hoarse and desperate. Helmets hit the ground. Men spat curses. Betrayal carved its mark into the faces of those who had trusted him. Ibrahim stood his ground. His next words were not a plea. They were a proclamation. Silence. They obeyed, not because they liked the decision, but because his voice was still the anchor that steadied them. He walked among them slowly, meeting eyes hardened by loss, and did not look away. He knew their pain better than anyone. "I am not asking you to forgive him," Ibrahim said softly, each syllable deliberate. "I am asking you to choose what kind of nation we will be. Every execution tonight will be another seed of revenge. We will be planting a forest of corpses that will feed the fires of tomorrow." A young soldier with a fresh wound near his temple spat at the ground. "How can you ask that of us, Captain? You didn't lose your mother to his men. You didn't carry your sister's body." "No," Ibrahim answered. "I did not. But I have seen the ruin of this land. I have seen children cry for parents they will never find. If we answer every atrocity with atrocity, we become the living echo of what we hate." Tears streamed down Uedraogo's face. He tasted the words. They did not heal him. They did not bring his sister back. They did ask something, to believe in a different future, when even the asking felt like a betrayal. Ibrahim motioned for the chains. Two men stepped forward, reluctantly securing Amadou's hands behind his back. The rebel's face did not change. He did not plead. He simply allowed himself to be led away. "That," Ibrahim said quietly to his ranks, "is the first step." He could feel the anger coiling like a ready serpent behind him. He could feel, too, the seeds of dissent, whispers that would grow into full-throated opposition. Choosing law over slaughter would be a beacon for some, and a betrayal to others. That night, the compound tried to sleep but could not. Men talked in low voices around smoldering fires, repeating accounts of what had happened, as if saying it aloud might make it less true. Some praised the captain's courage, others branded him a coward. The line between those sentiments shifted like sand. Ibrahim sat alone under the shredded canvas of his tent. A single lantern threw a small circle of light across his journal. He opened it and wrote, the ink shaky. To lead is to hold the line between what is easy and what is right. Tonight I chose the right, but I did not choose an end to suffering. I chose the only chance at something better. He folded the page and closed his eyes. Sleep came, thin and restless. Before dawn, a courier arrived with a thin envelope. Inside was a single note, no signature, with words that tasted of warning. Some will call you saint. Some will call you traitor. Pray you are neither when they come with knives. The handwriting trembled. Real danger, Ibrahim knew, did not always wear uniforms. It wore grief. It wore betrayal. It wore the hunger for the simple answer, blood. He rose and walked outside. The horizon was bruised purple with coming light. The north breathed, still wounded and wary. Above the quiet, a trumpet of rumors had already begun. Stories of generals who had been undermined, of politicians waiting in the wings, of foreign hands ready to manipulate the fracture. Mercy was a seed, but seeds need soil, water, and time, and sometimes before a seed can grow, storms come to rip it out. Ibrahim watched the dawn and felt something like determination harden within him. Mercy would not be easy. Justice would not be quick. He had given a single act of restraint. Tomorrow, that restraint would be tested in ways he couldn't yet imagine. He tucked the anonymous note into his journal and, with the first light across the plain, he whispered to no one and to everyone, if we are to rebuild, then we must be patient and brave. If we are to lead, we must be prepared to lose the approval of men and still stand for what saves a nation. Behind him, in the compound, men sharpened knives and others packed orders. Some would follow him to the end. Others would leave, their faces set like hard stones. The choice had been made. The consequences were coming. And in a city far from the north, in the smoke-filled rooms of power, someone began to plot, not for justice, but for advantage. Traore walked to him, placing both hands on his shoulders. You're right. I didn't live your pain. But we've all lost someone. That's why we fight. If we kill him now, your sister's death becomes just another link in an endless chain. But if we show justice, real justice, we start breaking it. Ouedraogo's tears fell silently. Rage still burned, but now it was joined by something fragile. Hope. Traore turned to his men. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm asking you to be better than him, to help me build a Burkina Faso where justice means something, not another tyrant replacing the last. He pointed at Amadou, whose hardened face softened with shock. This man will face trial. His crimes will be known. His victims will see him held accountable. That's how we prove we're different. A young soldier whispered. What if the system fails? Then we fight to fix it, Traore replied. But we don't abandon who we are out of fear. That's what turned him into a monster. He faced Amadou. You said you were tired of running. Now stand and face what you've done. Not as a corpse, as a man who must answer. Amadou's voice trembled. I don't deserve this. No, Traore said. But our country deserves to be better than its nightmares. He ordered Amadou's arrest. Anyone who disagrees can walk away. Silence hung heavy. Then, one by one, soldiers saluted. We trust you, Captain, Ouedraogo said. News of the decision spread like wildfire. Protests erupted. Some called Traore a traitor. Others hailed him as a visionary. But when Amadou's public trial began, something changed. Survivors faced him in court, telling their stories. A widow said, I wanted you dead, but seeing you here, forced to hear what you've done. This is justice. For the first time, the cycle of revenge began to break. Rebel commanders surrendered, choosing justice over death. Families returned home. Soldiers began to heal. Years later, as General Ibrahim Traoré cast his ballot in a free election, a reporter asked if he regretted sparing Amadou. Every day, he said, smiling, and never, because that day proved something. That justice can rise from pain and mercy can rebuild nations. He paused. True strength isn't in how hard you strike. It's in knowing when not to.